All right, let's talk about raised beds and rhubarb. All right, I saw a Facebook post the other day, and you know, occasionally there's one that comes along that want to know what the advantage is of raised beds. Well, here's one I'm going to show you real quick. I don't know if you can, how much you can tell, but it's been raining for a couple of days, maybe 3, and everything is puddles. It's sopping wet, and so, you know, if you had a traditional garden where you'd tilled it, and it'd be a mess right now. The soil would be compacted and it'd just be a mess. But you know what? Mine's fine. The paths are mulched. I can get in here and walk. You couldn't get in a regular garden right now. There's no way. As you can see, my potatoes are now up. And about like last year, I think there's one bare spot right in there. But that doesn't mean they won't come up again, you know, a little later. Asparagus is popping along and doing great. So, I can't wait till next year on that stuff. Sugar snap peas. And these are the leftover onions from last year that didn't do anything. I did pull a couple of them, and they had some sort of smallish bulbs on them. I don't know how they're going to work. Now, like I say, this is raised gardening, raised bed and no-till. This is where you could get out here. You could go out here and pull weeds, and I've got a couple to pull. But you could get out here right after a rainstorm, start pulling weeds and take care of things. If here in a day or two, if I wanted to get out and set some plants into the beds, I could do it. It wouldn't hurt a thing. You know, they're still moist underneath the mulch, and I'm you know, like everything is, but I could do it. So that's one advantage, is the drainage. You know, I don't have to worry about maybe rain eroding a trough across my garden. I don't have to worry about it compacting my soil all down. I don't have to worry about the rain helping to plant whatever trees or weed seeds have blown in. It just doesn't happen in this case. This is a lot easier way to garden. So I wanted to share that. Now let's talk about rhubarb. I went and bought some rhubarb root from Walmart, and it came in a bag, and there was 2 of them in a bag for $2.50. There's one of the plants, and there's the other one down in there, and they're doing okay. There's some kind of bug eating on them, but I believe they're going to be all right. But one thing I think a guy ought to know when he buys that stuff is, boy, when it first comes in, you need to jump on it and buy it and get it done, whatever you want to do with it. And because here's what happened. I bought 2 bags that had 2 roots apiece in them. Okay. Now, one of the roots was obviously already bad when I bought it. It was just gone. It was mush. No problem. I got 3 roots for $5. That's a bargain. So I went ahead and stuck 3 of them in the garden. Now, that was kind of a mistake. I wasn't thinking, I was in a hurry to go ahead and plant them. Well, what happened is the straw will tend to shift around, and apparently one of them got covered up and got suffocated out. And that's too bad. I still ended up with 2 of them for $5, and they're doing okay, you know, and they're growing. Well, anyway, we'll go in the greenhouse now. Later on, I decided Well, let's go ahead and see if we can't buy another one. We were going to Walmart for something else. As you can see, things in the greenhouse are just plugging right along. Tomatoes are tall enough now. Peppers still pretty small, but they're kind of slow. You know, beets, small, but they're going. Green beans need to go out this coming weekend. They are really, you know, going nuts. If I don't watch it, they'll be blooming on me, and they're still in the little seed cells. Sugar babies and squash is getting real leaves on it. Cucumbers are doing okay, or not cucumbers, cantaloupes back there doing okay. All right, so what happened is I bought another bag, and come to find out, you really need to buy that stuff quick when they get it in the store, because what this was when I got home with it, and they still had 2 cases of this in the store, 2 boxes. They were the same shipment or just as old, and these had already sprouted once, had sat in the bag, and dried out. So I bought 1 bag and got 2 roots, and this time I planted them in cups in the greenhouse. And as you could see, one of them came up. One of them's doing okay. Looks like maybe he's got a snail or something working on him. But he's doing all right. I think I'll just move him up to the bench so he's away from the soil and we don't have that problem. Get him in the camera here. But he's doing okay, and I'm going to let him get tall before I plant him out. The other one, he was just too far gone. You could tell they'd both sprouted inside the package, and those sprouts had withered off and they dried up. So when you get that stuff, you know, get it quick, get it right out there, because it'll sit on their shelf until it's ruined, and they don't have any idea in the store. So that's kind of what's going on. Now, we looked at the potatoes a little bit. I'll look at them a little bit more, because I want to talk a little bit about that. Now, the potatoes, and I apologize for things, you know, kind of need weed whipped around the edges. But as I say, it's been just nothing but rain lately. It's been cool out, so there hasn't been much time to get out here and do anything. And I do work, so my time's limited. All right, now, when I plant my potatoes, I use a method that I got from a book. And the book was my no-work garden. And I believe it was a Ruth Stout thing. Ruth Stout's great. She came up with no-till gardening before anyone else had ever thought of it, years and years before. There's a video on YouTube of her when she's obviously, you know, way up in years and talks about it. But she came up with this, and I had read that book and been impressed, and so I tried it. And all I do is I just lay the potatoes on top of the soil, cover them up with the mulch. They grow. I get a crop of potatoes. The potatoes will be right on top of the soil. They don't burrow in. The roots go in, but the potatoes stay pretty much on top. They come up a little later than most people's, but they do all right. So that's a quick little, that's another advantage of this kind of gardening, is the ease. You know, when you get ready to harvest the potatoes, man, all you're doing is just pulling the mulch back and picking them up off the top of the ground. It's great, and they come out clean and pretty. So, you know, now if you grew up in the Kansas City area, which we're 30, 45 minutes south, but we get Kansas City television, Kansas City radio, and if you're kind of about in my age bracket, you'll remember a name of a guy called Jack Tobin. He was a gardening person and had a TV show called Let's Get Growing. Well, Jack Tobin, after I'd read this book, you know, and I had kind of started to adopt a few of the things, he was on his, I was going somewhere, I suppose, and had the radio on, and his radio show was on at that time. He did TV and radio. I remember as clear as if it was yesterday. This woman called in, and she had heard of planting potatoes under straw. And she asked him, she says, "Is that really a good way to plant potatoes?" And Jack answered her, and he says, "Lady, as far as I'm concerned, that's the only way to plant potatoes." So that's what I'm going to leave you with. Look up Ruth Stout if you're interested, because it's an easy method of gardening. And as you can see, even though it's rained for a couple of days, what I've got set out so far, which isn't a lot, is doing fine. And I could get out here right now and pull weeds if I wanted to. I could set plants out and everything would be okay. It's all right. I want you to all have a quality day, and we'll talk to you.